Nice to see some familiar faces. Even nicer to see some unknown faces. A lot of Grotto regulars so far. So I invited Toad Swyback, otherwise known as Die with the Most Likes, to join us today and have a little fireside chat after we wrap up news. But it turns out that he can't make it. How's that for some non-excitement? Hey, there's PB. What's up, PB? Oh, just hanging. Glad you could make it. I was just saying that, Die with the Most Likes was going to join us, but turns out that he's quitting everything. He's getting a job at a Golden Corral in outside of Milwaukee. He's got a big assistant manager interview today.
So. Late night shift, right?
Probably. I don't know. He said that he's trading it all in. He's finished being a taste maker and a mover and shaker. So, but what about you? You got a temple run coming? Is that what I understand?
Oh, you're a legend. Yeah, dude. We got a temple run, new one starting tonight. So yeah, the temple runs are like collect 4, get the 5th airdropped, and then if you get 4 of those airdrops, you get a one. You can qualify for a 101 PBB or paper Buddha.
Oh, awesome. The 101, is that a $sign paper or no?
No, but you'll be able to do some really cool stuff with it, and you get all the airdrops and cyberspace utilities that come with a 101.
Awesome. So yeah. So that starts tonight. How long do they have to get the pieces for the temple run? I just get mine because I'm a badass, so I don't know the details for
we do reservations in Discord for PB collectors. There's a raffle there, and then they go public for 24 hours only. So if you have a private sale, you have 3 days to wait till gas is just right to get it. And then, yeah, you get 24 hours for a public sale.
Gotcha. Okay. Awesome. Well, good luck on that. Are there a set number, or it's however many come out to play?
Yeah, we do 20 editions on the first one, and then 25 editions on the next 3, and kind of let people fight it out on secondary.
Awesome. I like that. Nice play. Well, good. Yeah. Congrats on that. I didn't realize that if you get 4 of the run pieces at the end, that you're in for something. So that's cool. But I'll definitely be getting mine. I think I've got 3 full runs, right? Or is this do I only have 2?
You have 2 full. Yeah, you're one of the few people that already have 2 full runs. So you just need 2 more.
Awesome.
Today is the start of the 3rd. Yeah.
Awesome.
So we do that every Wednesday. We do an ETH drop. That's a run.
Okay, cool. Makes sense. I like that. I like the scheduling. That's what, especially the way that my project's been running lately. We're really going to be leaning on schedules going forward. Once we get completely free here in the next couple of weeks, which is going to be kind of remarkable at this point. But yeah, let's get it kicking off here. We got plenty of people. Well, not really, but whatever. Nice to see those non-grotto people taking advantage. Nice to see Indo people. Where the fuck is Retro? Oh, there he is. There's Retro. Good. Nice to see Retro. So we're going to talk a little bit about March Madness. Technically, the tournament started last night with the play-in rounds last night and tonight to decide that last seed for the main 64. But I'm an old man, and I still don't really recognize those the 68. I just feel like it's too many. So I'm a purist, even though even in my lifetime it went from 48 to 64. So, I mean, I'm old enough to know that there used to be only 48 teams in the tournament. But anyway, so we started dropping in the last. Well, I guess yesterday they started. We got 2 of the 4 out. About to once we hang up here, I'll mint. It takes about, just so you guys know, it takes about 2.5 hours with minimal interruptions just to mint a bracket side that's 64, because they're individual, they're 101s, and then uh, obviously creating them has been a lot of fun. Those of you who aren't in the grotto don't know the story that I had planned something a little more basic for these pieces. The hearts were going to be hearts regardless. The pink hearts, that was planned ahead of time. But the cubes and the still yet to be teased orange bracket, um, I was just gonna basically just make them place cards, with the letter of the region and the color and the number of the seed. And then I just saw EJG, one of our collectors, and many other people really sort of saying, "Oh, I can't wait to see this art and everything." And so all that started to happen on Sunday night, because we announced this on Sunday late afternoon. And so there have been some concepts that I really have been wanting to kick around that are a little outside of what I normally do. Normally I'm just a straight painter. I paint pretty straightforward narratives, and there's not much time or space in my stuff for abstraction. It's just what it is. I just tell a story with that painting. Yeah, and so I've been wanting to play with a little bit of an abstract concept, a little bit more of a commentary piece than I normally do, maybe. And so these presented that opportunity. So the whites and the blacks, which you guys have probably seen either in the gifs that we've posted or the actual pieces, which have been airdropped on the whites. Um, they're it was actually quite a fun thing to put them together, because I conceptualized them as the stop action, um, the animation stuff that I put together on those gifs. So to go from not painting anything like that to quickly throwing together 256 individual paintings with 3 of them becoming animated, um, was quite the undertaking. So my sleep has been a little less than has been for the last few weeks. Right, I haven't been sleeping much these days, getting it in, little 2-hour naps here and there. Um, but I'm really proud of them. I like them, and so just for those that don't know it, what I did is, normally I would paint a full painting. I'd go, most of my paintings take me, I don't know, 12 or 15 hours, like 8 to 20 hours kind of on is the window there. I can, if it's a really simple, straightforward one, I can probably get it out in 8 hours. But what I did with these is in 20, about 22 hours, I painted the first 3, including the hearts, um, and those cubes, and laid them all out. But when I laid out the canvases for all 3, because they're basically doodles, right? I mean, they're the cubes, and there's a little more work to the hearts, but they're rough. They're just suggestive, right? Um, but what I did when I was laying out the canvases is I painted, or I again sketched more than anything, right? They're little sketches, little doodles. Some abstract stuff. There's some messages painted into the backgrounds. Specific shout outs to grotto members, terms that we use, and just sort of the grotto lifestyle. And then I painted them, and then I canvassed over to them, and so the idea being that maybe it isn't that straightforward painting on there anymore, but it's a part of it, and so I could go into this abstract thing while still referencing my typical work a little bit. And then at the same time, I'm talking with the abstract pieces about very specifically about some stuff going on in the NFT world and in our space. And when you see the orange paintings that I'll do later this afternoon, I think you'll understand where they're coming from too. And so, it's just been fun to put those together unexpectedly, right? I didn't plan for it. It wasn't scheduled in, just to sort of say, you know what, this is a time I can do this. I can take this little risk here and throw it together because, sorry, because it's a part of this other project, right? And so, it allows me to sort of step outside of what I'm typically doing, and do it a little differently, tell that story a little differently. And of course, it's all um, centered around this idea, this event that we've got going on, which is March Madness, which is around basketball. And so, any of you that are in here that aren't in the grotto people have heard me talk pretty extensively and go in depth about it. But some of you are in here and you even bought pieces and you're sort of playing along, kind of winging it. Because if anything, you read the Medium, blog post that I threw up, and that's about it. But um, really, it's this whole project. Um, it I won't say that there are new mechanics to it. Okay, we sort of know the way that the tokens work and the way that the structure is there. Um, so we're not debuting anything other than the concept of the brackets is a little new. But that's not, it's threesome specific stuff, right? But um, but what we're doing is taking what we know how to do, and I always like to teach a bit of a lesson in any of these events, right? And so really, what we're dealing with here, what I want to bring to the forefront of the little side project, this event, is the idea of risk more than anything. Okay, and so it's all structured um, along the lines of a pretty simple and straightforward, um, you know, uh, promo giveaway competition type thing that doesn't take any skill. It's all just luck, right? It's all just the luck of the wheel that decides what teams are going to be playing for you. You've got nothing. You have no input whatsoever as to the outcome of the actual games, right? You had no input into the draw. You were randomly picked and assigned to a bracket. We did all that live. We recorded it for anybody that wants to see it. We actually made that link public and those of you outside can see what it's like to hang in the grotto for an hour and a half or whatever we did. But it was just random draw, which is a lot of life, and it's a lot of the grotto is sort of there's a random nature where you only control so much, right? Um, but it's a pretty easy payout, right? Essentially, a third of the participants can win a prize, right? With the prize, the smallest prizes being 4x, being with a floor value right now of 4 times what you've spent to get in, and the big ones, being 60x, right, or more probably. And so it's a the idea is to we just have fun in the grotto like this all the time. The collectors, we like to do things that are a thank you for supporting such an ambitious project and spending the money that you spend and the time and effort that you put into it. So it's just a thank you. It's a good way to give stuff away. I like giving stuff away, um, but it's also, uh, I want to explore what it all means. And so, while I've made it very simple for you to win, um, I'm trying to make it difficult on you to decide what to do if you do win. And so I've made it where you don't have to if you're chosen for a prize, you can say no. I'll defer that. I don't want that prize. I want to go for the next round or the more difficult ones. and in doing so, you're giving up a certainty um, for the idea of something better in the future. So that's what we're playing with. It's sort of it's a concept that plays out every day in the NFT space, right? Um, but it particularly plays out in the Threesomes project overall. I talk about it often that the three things you're constantly faced with are whether you're going to continue to hold something that you've bought because it'll have more value or more utility in the future, or if you're going to take that ever increasing price, is now the time you sell it, or do you burn it to use somehow, right? And so that's the other thing. If you're going to be claiming any of these prizes, you have to burn the insert. And so it was pretty straightforward when I offered it up to people at 5 TES, right? We were oversubscribed. That's, um, I was hoping that we would get to 4. I really was hoping that, but I didn't want to promise anything. So, little by little, I expanded it based on interest that I was getting, and then when I saw the numbers come in, we were able to go to 4, which is good because it sets us up for that final round, which many of you, if you're not in the grotto, don't know about, right? So there are a few in here that don't realize that if you are a winner of a bracket, so if you win, that means your team wins the national championship, right? So there'll be 4 winners in the bracket. They could be, you could win two brackets or whatever, right? But if you win, um, you're guaranteed a prize of a series 2. Okay, and series 2 is mine. The floor is 200 or 200 and some right now, right? They go up to quite a bit. So it's a substantial prize, right? And um, but I want to put us into that idea of risk, and so you are welcome when all the winners are decided there. It's on a Monday night is when the pardon me is when the national championship is, and so after the game, then everybody who's a winner will have until the following LFG, so until 4:30 um, in the afternoon on Tuesday, to decide if they want to risk their guaranteed Series 2 prize. And it'll be done anonymously. There'll be a form that they'll fill out to say yes, I want to risk it, or no, I want to claim it. And if they risk, they any of the 4 that risk, if all 4 of them, or one of them, or 3 of them, whoever passes on to the next round, um, where the prize will be a one-of-one painting of mine, a full painting. It'll be specific to this event. It's a painting created just for this. Um, it's not a series 1 or anything like that. Um, Technically, it'll be an insert, but it's a one-of-one insert. And the way that works is it'll be a wheel. It'll be a sudden death wheel. However many names are on there, either well, if it's 1, then they automatically get it, right? If there's none, then we don't give it away. If all 4 say, well, no, we're going to keep the series 2, and if there's 2, 3, or 4, then the names go up on the wheel and it's spun, and whoever hits, you get a one-of-one, and that's it. It's pretty straightforward. Um, so So anyway, that's sort of I held that out until it was all done, and then explained what we were up against. And I know that the only grotto people found that out, but it's just another perk to this, but another example of where you got to figure out your risk tolerance and what you're willing to do. So um, and I'll leave it for the end if there are any specific questions. But I just wanted to clear up sort of the concept here and the whys. Right? It's not often that I get to talk about why I structure things the way I do and what's behind the art. I often am exploring a specific concept with an event or a project drop, and it's kind of rare that I get to talk about that. Even the grotto rarely asks specifics about things. They're just caught up in the collecting and the interaction of it all. So um, coming up, it's like, so the way it's going to be 3 weeks altogether, right? We've got uh, this Thursday through Sunday are games, and the next Thursday through Sunday are games, and then the following Saturday and Monday are games. So this takes a little while to be drawn out. Give us something to think about. And of course, because the way that you claim and the way that you participate is all based on these tokens that have been dropping since last night. You can trade those. You can sell them. You can trade them. You can move them around however you need. Whoever's going to be claiming their prize will need the token in question. Um, and so feel free to create a secondary market for them. Feel free to strategize around what numbers you have, what seeds you have. If you want to look and see what those teams are and figure out if you've got a good shot at it. But yeah, absolutely. Don't feel that you're hurting my feelings if you sell these things. Um, they're all meant to be a part of an ecosystem. They're meant to move around. So please, by all means, have at it. Um, but it's interesting to see so far. There's only one listed of the first 68, or 68, 128 that are up there. There's one for sale for 150 tons. Um, Otherwise, everybody's holding pat so far. I expected some of you pink to put them up there and flip them. Honestly, that seems to be when we open to the public. Everybody just wants to flip real quick. So I assumed the 29 slots that went to the public were going to be flipped like crazy. So far, no. So that's interesting. I think a lot of the grotto was expecting them to. A lot of the grotto was going to swoop in and buy these things. As far as the tokens themselves, they are hand painted individual one of ones. I don't think we're going to pretend at all that we are giving them the same sort of prestige and value that my typical 101s go for, right? I mean, all told, what have I done? Um, the painted X's and that series, they result in one of ones, but again, it's not it's a variation of an existing painting. The quads have one of ones, but the same thing. Neither of those have fetched one of one prices because there've only been 8, well 9 with the leathers, I guess. So 9 total one of ones, other than the first 2 that sold when I was a virtual unknown. Most of them sell in the $30,000 plus range, right? Don't I don't want anybody feeling like they think their pink heart is going to go for 30,000, and I don't want you to be upset if it doesn't. It's sort of a different animal. There's so many of them, and it's just different. And there's a part of me that really wanted, when I decided that I was going to play through these as individual paintings, that I wanted them to be low effort one on ones, if that makes sense. And I say that um, sort of dismissingly, right? Like that's a I feel it's a problem in the space, is that there is low effort stuff, and so um, I felt that I should do some low effort stuff as a commentary on that. Of course, um, what we're imbibing them with and what they can do and utility wise and everything. Um, I hope you all feel the effort as we play through this stuff, right? And don't forget all of these pieces, like all of my pieces. Of course, they have this limited utility while we're doing this basketball event, the March Madness event. But all threesomes, and these are threesomes, have future utility. So um, it, one would assume that these will come in handy in other efforts. So yeah, they're low effort. There's no question compared to what I normally paint, but there's a lot to them. So keep that in mind as the fourth quadrant, as Kitch says, as the fourth color drops this evening, and maybe you can look and see if you see any sort of connection or anything that plays out through all of them. Because at the end of the day, yes, I love like game theory and utility planning. I love it. I'm very proud of how good I am at it, and I consider it to be a part of my art, right? But at the end of the day, I'm also a painter, and I take my painting very seriously, and I take my art very seriously, and so just this is one of those moments uh, where I'm able to say, look seriously at my stuff every once in a while. It's a lot of fun, and I like it to be fun, and irreverent, and outside of the bounds of normalcy, certainly. But artistically, I've got some stuff going on.
Yeah, can we talk about that for a sec, Threesies? Like, I noticed that you posted a picture the other day of working on all the cards with the paint on your kitchen table. And like, I don't know that people actually appreciate the physicality of what you do, painting with your little tiny hands and your little tiny fingers on those little tiny cards, man.
Well, thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, I mean, there are still people I think that don't realize that I am a like a traditional painter. In fact, uh, I can't be. I don't think there's a worse digital artist in the world maybe than I am. I just have no concept of it, and It's not like I don't understand tech. It's not, but I just can't use any of the fucking tools. I just really suck at it. Even deploying those gifts yesterday, I'm like asking for help. So, I'm able to turn my paintings into digital photographs. That I've figured out, but that's really the extent of the digital work, for the most part. And so, yeah, I physically paint these things, and it's even if I'm doing something like these low effort ones, it's actually quite a bit of effort. But thanks for bringing that up, PB. Yeah, I mean, I I do studies. I'll work different angles on what I'm conceiving, uh, and I if I'm doing a full blown um, new painting, that's something that's dropped as a base card or as a standalone insert or something like that. It's quite a bit of work to get there, to get to the end. It's just part of my process. There's no complaint. I love it. I love every minute that I spend in this life. But it's a lot of work. It's tiring. It's physically demanding at times. I don't. I use very small brushes to get a lot of the detail. I use gouache, which is a notoriously uncooperative medium. There's a reason not that many people use it, and the way it's typically used is far more forgiving, even the way I use it. Um, and yeah, it's there's a lot to it. I sit while I paint because I need to be close to the cards, but I don't use a loop, and I don't. Um, it's all free hand and free eyes. Um, but I'll sit for 20 hours, so I need to get up and move around and stretch and pop my chest and things, because I'm an old man. But it's a little demanding on me. Um, and of course, that any graffiti artist or any large scale artist, that's real demanding. I'm not saying, look, I've chosen my path and I've chosen my stuff. I've got a cushy gig compared to others. I'm certainly not a sculptor. I'm not uh, using stone and shit. Um, but at the same time, it's an undertaking. So yeah, there might be still. Obviously, the grotto knows. Like the grotto in real life have seen the paintings, have held them in their hands. They've seen my brushes. Um, it's one of the perks of hanging out when we do these events, right? Um, and it's always neat. I started this. It's coming up in May. Will be 4 years that I started painting. And initially, I didn't take myself seriously as a painter at all. It took quite a while, really, to even acknowledge that I felt I knew what I was doing at all.
How long did that take, man? Because I'm still not acknowledging myself as an artist.
Well, here's the thing. it was like a solid 2.5 years, um, where I didn't even what I did. I didn't even consider it painting, right? Um, I happened to meet people that thought what I was doing was significant, and they sort of swayed me in a way. I got good response from the few people that I ever shared it with. So I started taking it, looking at it that way. But it's still been only 10 months since I even sold my first NFT. You know, and I never sold any paintings before that, or anything. So um, at this point though, at this point, I do feel that I'm an artist. I do feel like I'm a painter. I feel I'm really, for what I do and how I do it, I've come to accept. And that happened last summer. I'll tell you, it was like August, September, where I finally was like, I stopped being apologetic. Right? I had this thing for a while, PB, that maybe you'll understand, where um, I was getting success on the NFT side. I was getting accolades and sales and being told how people loved my work and stuff. And I was worried that I had not paid my dues, that I hadn't spent 30 years of hustling and trying every little thing to get anybody to see or buy my work and all of that. That's like the classic, trajectory of the working artist. And I really struggled at times with the fact that I hadn't done that and that I didn't deserve to have all of the success I was having because I hadn't put in the work. And and then I just had a moment of clarity where I realized that I was working at other things in life. I was putting in work in other ways. Sorry, I tried to mute that cough. I think I hit the button twice. But I was putting work into life in other ways. And then when I did decide to be a professional artist, I'd already learned how much hard work it took to do other things, and so I just approach my painting the same way. I work very hard at this, and so when I realized that, I was able to take pride in it for the first time. That I do. I don't leave anything on the table. I don't half-ass any of this. And even like I'm saying with this new project, my low effort stuff is pretty high effort. And so I'm proud of it. And so that's where I got, for me, paper Buddha. It was that moment of just acknowledging. So what that I was putting harder work and effort and creativity into other aspects of life before. It doesn't make me any less of an artist today. And I proudly say, I don't leave anything out. I mean, I work as hard as I possibly can at my craft, and so yeah, I've got about 6 months in that I am able to take a compliment or take somebody telling me they like my work and not feel some sort of imposter syndrome or something like that. I'm very proud of what I do. And there are times where, and you guys in the grotto, I'm a little more a little less reserved when I'm around the grotto because we're just a bunch of friends at this point. But I love some of my paintings. Like I look at that and I go, wow, I fucking love that painting. I love what I brought out here. I'm very, very into it, very proud of it. And so with stuff like that, it's that helps an awful lot of getting me to that point is really appreciating the art itself, if that makes any sense. But
Yeah, and you come from a business background as well, so just like I do. I don't know if it helped you at all, but when I realized that the utility and the business that I was building behind the art was also an art in and of itself, I overcame that imposter syndrome pretty quick. I don't know about you.
no, absolutely, and I've always thought of that. I wanted to be a creative when I was a kid. I was a ball player, but I always wanted to be a writer. Like I wanted to be a writer. I wanted to be a screenwriter, and um, and that's what I was gonna. After I left baseball, that's what I was gonna do. And I just sold an option, and I was like gonna live that life. But then I had like a detour in life that took me somewhere else, and I started business. I mean, I'd already been running other businesses, but I really focused on business. And for years, I would tell myself this weird thing where I would say, you're just as creative in creating a business. It's as much artistry to create a viable, um, innovative business. And I told myself that, and I believe, and it was true as much as it could be. There was aspects of being a businessman compared to an artist that are a little different, especially a capitalistic businessman, right? But I always did feel that I was being creative. Now, compared to this year of my life that I've said I'm an artist, it honestly doesn't compare. And so I feel completely free and like released into that creativity that was almost stifled for so much of my life, right? And so I feel like I've finally become me, and I finally opened myself up to a lot of that stuff. But I entirely agree that I think that commerce and marketplace and capitalism and business in general can be a very creative artistic outlet, but I think there's certain restraints to it that really just aren't the same as purely creating art for art's sake. And I think that's that difference. I at the end of the day, like I live in this art world, and I genuinely am creating this art because it needs to happen. Okay. Uh, like you, I mean, we're both lucky in that we also understand market dynamics and business in a way that a lot of our peers don't. So that comes naturally to us on that side, but it's just as creative. I mean, I believe, and I say this all the time, that my utility and my marketplace protections are I have to be very very creative there on both of those, and it's very fulfilling to do them both. But man, there's something like about painting that really does it for me. Um, and I would imagine, we've hung out quite a bit, and I would imagine that's it's the same for you. Like if you settle in, you fit in on the business aspect of the art that makes sense, but there's got to be something really exciting for you as you create now for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, this is we're at the beginning of all of this, and I think guys like you and I, and how let's talk about how the fact that you're also cross chain, right? You're on Tez and Ethereum, just like I am. I'm on Solana as well, but really seeing it as one thriving ecosystem, and that these are all just different currencies, these different blockchains, and we can do really cool mechanics, like you and I both do with our communities on Tez. But then moving to Ethereum, that provides a whole other layer of utility for the community. For us, with the temple, we're building out the metaverse in a big way on the Ethereum chain. But we can't do all of our cool mechanics like you do with your slips, like you do with everything that we're doing and bidding with inserts and all the stuff that we do in the grotto. That's stuff that we can't accomplish on another chain. So we really have to like look at this in a holistic way and run our art and our communities like a business, because we're here for the long term, right? And I think we all recognize that when we got to Web3, 99% of us came here on an economic reason. So it's got to make economic sense for everybody across the board, which is one of the things that really drew me to you right away, is I knew that investment-wise, my coin would be safe with you in the community, and it would grow.
Well, and that's the thing. I think you and I are very similar on so many levels, and we're very lucky to be some of the first to be doing that cross chain stuff and really expanding it. And I'm not going to lie. I think we're sort of setting the trail for future people who are going to understand. It is possible. It's entirely possible to play on both sides, even without technology in place that makes that feasible right now. Right? We do it sort of because it's if you can wish it into existence, you can on a lot of levels with this stuff. But I think that we're laying the blueprint for other artists that are going to understand that the blockchain is more than a single blockchain, and you can move around it and balance it to make the most sense for your project. And that's a part of what we do, and it's a challenge, and it's creative, and it's got all this um, interest and stuff to it. But I'm just glad to have peers like you in the space where we're able to do this and really expand it. Before you and I became friends and before we like hooked up on this stuff, I think a lot of it we were sort of felt on our own, or saw some things happening with other projects you could kind of look at, but to have friends in the space doing similar stuff is very cool. It's very helpful to all of this. And it's cool to see our communities sort of syncing up on some things and sharing collectors as well as just concepts and on both sides of the project here. And that's what I've been, since our hangs in Miami and Boston have really been focusing on that concept of community and the way that we can open our communities up to others, without eroding one, actually ending up making both stronger, right? Or multiple communities. And so that's where we're going with franchise stuff. Is where the franchise side of threesomes that we're entering into here. We're sort of in full steam move into it, but the idea that individuals and groups will be owning my very teams that I've painted, right, and created, and running them as professional baseball teams, with everything from salary players up to front office and marketing teams and the whole bit, just running them as individual little businesses. Um, but it's a great opportunity for people who are very entrenched in this given project to have exposure with another one. So theoretically, just because I'll pick on him because he's in here, but Paper Buddha and the Temple could own a team and sort of coordinate time that they're spending in the grotto to participate. That becomes almost a temple exercise, right? It becomes a time to hang temple style, but they can do it in the grotto and participate in the project of the grotto and collect threesomes and move towards all the things that we offer, which is fun and collectability and stability and profit, right? So, with all those things in play, it's the sort of thing where we have multiple communities already sort of looking at where they'll take their stake, and we've got 8 teams to start in the initial round of offerings, but every season we'll offer a new team up to 24. So there'll be theoretically we could have another 15 or 16 communities figure out how they come and take a part in franchises down the road. And so I really imagine a place in threesomes where we have all sorts of amazing NFT communities, that all have their little slice of my project. And I think that's I don't think that's been done very much. Obviously, there's a lot of whitelist sharing and meeting up in the metaverse and stuff when you have these cross community things. But everybody's sort of wrestling for their own little slice of it, and I really like that concept that we can do this where you can have a slice of mine. I'm happy to do that. Ownership really is that. There's even from the standpoint of revenue sharing, it's a very lucrative structure that I've built. And so, I think it's down the road we're going to see that very strongly in my space where all these communities, it actually makes financial sense even just to have a slice of the threesomes universe. But it really, um, it gives a community just one other thing. A lot of communities right now are having poker nights or figuring out ways to do movie nights or collective things, right? You can play around in the threesomes universe, a little bit of your day or a little bit of your week. So I like that idea. Again, it's just neat to have you here, PV. I appreciate you coming up. The fact that we saw each other in that first time in Miami at Art Basel, and to realize, oh shit, we have very similar approaches. It was just a nice thing for me to feel that I wasn't necessarily in my own um, little world here. So it's neat. What do you got, D-Bot? You got something?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
So I was always wondering, you have an eclectic blend of things that you like as far as other artists and different work that you collect. And I've never seen anything quite like yours. Does that affect what you're interested in? Like, um, going down the line, we were talking about Yana the other day, and a couple of different artists that you're interested in. But sometimes you come out of the woodwork with some stuff that I've never seen and I've never heard of. Does your art specifically affect that, or is it just you're interested in everything?
You know, I think I mean I'm certainly interested in a broad stroke of art. I mean, um, I've got a pretty evolved artistic background. I come from a very established art community. As far as the city I grew up in, I didn't live within that art community specifically. You know, I didn't have working artist parents or anything like that. But it was the sort of community where an artist was a very respected role, right? And so, and that it's very broad because it's a real art town, right? A very broad cross section of styles and approaches. And so I just grew up having sort of broad exposure and broad taste. At the same time, specifically if we're talking about like my NFT collection, um, there's a neat aspect of what I do. I'm threesomes, and now I'll sort of step outside of it for a second, just for the sake of answering this question. And I did tell you guys nothing too intimate, nothing too taboo. Right today, I'll answer everything as long as it doesn't discuss future utility. Um, but threesomes is a persona too, right? And so threesies, collects a certain way too, and I think um, there are times where I feel that as a part of the narrative of where we're going as a project and as a persona, that it matters that I collect a certain way or a certain piece may catch my eye as the persona, as opposed to as me, the artist, doing it. If that makes any sense. So there are times that I I do find myself looking at or following a specific artist because it's what the persona wants me to do. Um, but at the same time, there are just as many instances that I collect and focus on things that are the right thing to do for the space and the right thing to do for the market and the right thing to do for my project. Okay. So in that regard, I feel that yeah, everything that I collect now in the NFT art space and even in the physical space. I mean, I've bought paintings um, lately that I came to know and understand and be exposed to because of a specific NFT connection. Right. I bought a piece from Rolly's wife. Okay, Rolly's one of our longtime collectors. He was in here earlier. I think he may have stepped. Um, but his wife is a physical painter. I don't know if she was a digital artist first and then became physical, but I bought a piece that I absolutely love. Um, because it was just the thing. It was the right thing to do at the moment. And so, yeah, that's a really good question. And I would imagine that all of us in the space are reconsidering the way that we buy and collect art uh, because of it. And I think if you see anybody, and I can already think of a few off the top of my head, but you'll see some people who are not exactly embracing the rebirth or renaissance or new approach that PB and I have to the world now that we're NFT artists and well-known NFT artists, right? There's some people who, if you see their art and you see their wallet of carefully curated pieces, um, you can tell that they're simply furthering a platform or a goal. There's a structure to it. They're collecting only from a certain group, right? Um,
A very narrow window, if I may say so. You know, one thing one one thing I noticed with you and we both do this. We have a community vault, right? One thing that's been crossing my mind lately, you know, you talk, obviously, I have a persona online with the collecting as well. So I very much the same theory here. I've been thinking about collecting from the temple vault rather than from my own account, save for a couple of things. What do you think about that as somebody that has a vault?
Interesting. I kind of like that. I mean, I huh. I'll have to think about that a little bit more. I kind of like it. When I first hear it, I like the concept. Um, yeah, I
Especially when you have the offers up there too, PB. That's a really smart idea. Is that PB will put up 7.77 tes for one of his pieces, and the downside is for the seller obviously, but turns around, gets another piece back, and continues on. But I think that's a really smart idea with the vault.
Yeah,
yeah.
we put
Go
offers.
ahead.
We
Go
put
ahead.
offers. Well, I was just going to say we put offers out at the primary price. So like the collector will never make money on it, but they have a kind of a guaranteed liquidity to fall back on in the community.
Yeah. No, I've liked how you do that. It's a sweet approach, and I've made claims at different series where and it's never ever come to fruition, right? But I've offered on a given series like to buy it back in 60 days for 2x or 3x or whatever, um, because just if anybody's sort of on the fence at this point, I don't have too many people on the fence on my stuff, and so we don't really even talk about that. But it's certainly out there. I mean, I buy my stuff back somewhat often. Um, because I tend to give it away again and again. I bought a dot pigeon Genesis the other day, um, because I looked at first it became available at a price that I felt that it was not going to last, and I looked at who else owns the rest of the pieces, and I realized, I don't have the piece myself, um, which it doesn't really matter because I fucking created it, right? But every once in a while, I like to have something digital. But more than the reason I like to have it is so I can give it to somebody else, right? And I realized if I don't buy this one, I don't know that I'll ever be able to buy one again to give to somebody. And so I stepped in and I paid 1,500 for it, because there will come a time, I believe, where I'll want to reward somebody who maybe wasn't around in the dot pigeon 001 days, um, with the opportunity to have a piece that you just can't get anymore. So that's where I'm doing it. Is I'm buying my own pieces to then give them away, and then the vault does the same thing in a very structured manner. Um, but I feel sometimes that it's just my responsibility to sort of give back in that regard. And then, but I really like your concept, that you're talking about, of buying the vault artists out of there for yourself. I'm going to think about that, how that plays out. The other thing is, there are times where I've got an alt wallet as well that I nobody knows which it is, and I don't even think Quistoff knows, and Quistoff knows every wallet in the space. Um, but I have a wallet that I will collect in from time to time where, um, I don't want to put my name to it necessarily, because I don't want that being misconstrued as something else. Very often, if I buy somebody, or if I tweet about buying somebody, the grotto runs out and buys it too, right? Um,
Yeah,
which
you
is
got to be careful. You got to be careful with that influence. That's something I'm noticing too. That if I like, it's almost an endorsement if I tweet something.
exactly. And so there are times where I'll buy something which I think is a bad deal, right? Um, I don't, where, and there were times where I would say this out loud. I would say, "Hey guys, I just bought this thing, but don't go buy it because I am. I don't. I think you could lose money on it, or I think I don't. You don't understand why I'm doing it, but I have a reason." And so I've gone to my alt more and more to not mess things up that way. Um, I'll have a very specific reason of my own, and that debot is cherries is what you're maybe hinting at and asking about is like I have a weird approach to to like a personal collection and personal stuff that goes outside of the persona that maybe I don't need or want out there right now, right? It's a more of a personal. It's a personal experience for me. That's a personal connection. Um, and then there are times where I will buy something on an alt wallet that I just speculatively am pretty certain is going to be very expensive down the road, um, but that is strictly for that. And I don't want anybody to confuse that with that being my aesthetic or anything like that. Just every once in a while, there are ways to turn Tez into more Tez, and I feel if I feel it's something that the grotto itself can participate in, I'm all for it. But I'm talking more like a secondary aspect, right? Where I'll do that. Some of the stuff that I've bought and I've put out there, and I've tried to lead you guys into profitable endeavors, right? But it's becoming harder and harder in the Tez space lately to even see those deals. But
Well, that's the importance of being a cross chain, I think, and you're a really good example of somebody that caught wind of that early, and had a really successful launch with 3Zs on Ethereum. And I think we're about to see some big stuff with Grotto on ETH.
yeah. The ETH is with especially I've got the 3 nifty drops coming up over the rest of the year, which is going to be ETH based. I'm going to have more and more of an ETH presence. That doesn't stop us from doing our day to day. Our the threesomes will always be run on a gasless network because the viability of it. There's a possibility that ETH becomes with certain movements, and I'm not talking about like L2 and shit. I'm just saying, even in the near future, I was on Spaces last night with Duncan Cockfoster talking about things that they're doing there. That look, I paid fucking $8 in gas for a Yana Sturza piece on Monday, um, and that
That's crazy. That's so cheap.
it's so cheap, right? And I mean, granted, that's because we're in a very, very depressed market right now. There's just not that much activity. There's a lot of fear out there, but um, I could see it. And if you hear like, it was actually kind of a fascinating. Oh my god, what a weird Spaces I was on last night. It was Sibs. It was JC from Sibs talking to Duncan Cockfoster. Ah, wow. Talk about awkward pauses that had awkward pauses. What a just they're not exactly conversationalists. Um, yeah, but an hour and a half conversation between two people who are really bad at conversation was weird. But Duncan did leak some shit that he really hadn't spoken publicly about yet. That Nifty's going to be doing. Um, they've been talking a lot about their gas reduction and stuff like that. We know that, but there's other elements of it. I mean, I can see us doing more and more. Even you, right? I can see you and I and artists that are on this sort of multi-chain platform really going more into ETH. It becomes fiscally reasonable, and I think we're getting there. So, um, but in the meantime, threesomes will be where you can do it on the cheap. Where Ratro can burn 150 fucking inserts a day for 2 weeks and only cost him the inserts. Because we just can't have the money eaten up in these transactional costs. If it's our responsibility as artists to deliver something uh, for everybody that makes financial sense to them. I think to not be considerate of that is just the wrong approach, and that's it's something maybe that you'll see come out and play as you think about what I've painted here on my low effort 101s, right? Um, but yeah, I my commitment to the community is truly first and foremost. Look, I only get to be threesomes and live this life because I got a grotto that I get to hang with, you know. I quit my job last April to do this, having never done it. Right, I had nothing. I had no. I mean, I knew. I still to this day. I was talking about it. I had a conversation about it last week, and I was like, look, I knew that this was going to work. I didn't have any doubts. But if you look on paper at my reasoning for doing that, for giving up the level of employment that I had at the age that I had, um, with the certainty of you know economic ease ahead of me, to just walk from that to do this thing that I had never done, it looks a little shady on paper. Um, but having done that and knowing that it would be possible if I could have the community to support it, um, and so getting that community, and not only getting the community to support it, but having learned that the grotto, even those of you who aren't in the grotto, who are here listening and going, oh, we've heard about this grotto, we've heard about this grotto. The grotto is just the greatest bunch of, you got 150 or 180 like active grotto members, right? That's 150 fucking amazing friends. Like, we trust each other, we share with each other, we're intimate with each other, we love each other. It's just a bunch of friends. And so what was meant to be a solid community to give a place to my art has become my community in life, you know. And so if that's the case, then I treat them, and I feel that any artist who's built a community should treat and respect their collectors as family, and always look out for their best interest. And in doing so, it's our responsibility to look for the best deals for for gas, for transactions. You know, to have some sort of ego or arrogance around wanting to only showcase on a certain place, a certain platform, a certain chain, is a disservice to the people who are paying the bills. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, and as we're entering the franchise era, there's no chance of doing those kind of mechanics, purely on ETH. So, exactly what you're talking about, having an eye on the future. Those are the things that have really attracted me to you and the project forever. Is that you've got this holistic way of thinking about the market, and it's important as an artist that we understand the economics that we're leading our community into, and you really have a firm grasp of that. Stuff like the brackets and what we're doing right now in the grotto, that's stuff we can't really do on ETH.
No, you can't do it at all. I mean, we can't. It's kind of hard to have fun on ETH without putting a lot of money at risk. And there's certain people that are okay in that realm, and that's okay. You can have a certain amount of risk adverse people at a very high dollar level, but the fact of the matter is the world is made up of far more people that aren't there. And so, um, I don't think that it's right to have a project that I feel is a a populist project that's out there that can be that really can be enjoyed by all tiers of economic position. Um, I don't want to shut people out from that, and I don't want to avoid doing fun and exciting things because I'm just stuck on one chain, and it only will play for a couple people at that level. So anyway, it's this I think that this one, those of you that don't know, for the Super Bowl, we did a week long, similar promo where there was participation all week to earn slots on very classic office pool betting squares. That was all determined just by the luck of how the game played out. Um, and we gave away like $50,000 worth of pieces, right? Gave away something like at the time like 12,500, 13,000 tes worth of my paintings. Um, and I love doing that sort of stuff, and couldn't do that not only without the chain making those transactions possible, but couldn't do it without a community that really treats the grotto and the collection as a major source of their entertainment dollar, right? And I feel that I've got a lot of hardworking uh, collectors. I've got some that are crypto rich or traditional world accomplished and well positioned. But I also have some people that the three tes that they're spending on one of my drops, that matters, and I take it seriously. I want us to play at those levels too.
I think that's a really important point that you bring up. I was just thinking about it too. The grotto is very international. Even though it's centered around an American sport, I don't know fuck all about American sports. Like, I'm not a sports ball guy. I do Formula One, so I know about Formula One. But that's about it, man. And I didn't have to know anything about sports to jump into the grotto, to start being a good active collector and community member. This bracket, dude, I don't know shit about basketball, bro. I'm the worst basketball guy. But I'm having a blast, and I don't need to know anything about the sport in order to participate, which I think is huge. You've really lowered the barrier to entry for people.
Well,
And
and
included
what I'm
everybody.
trying to do also, and I appreciate that because it is. I mean, you don't need to know anything about football. You don't need to know anything about basketball. You don't need to know anything about baseball to collect my art. It doesn't matter. You don't need to know any of it. Um, Knowing about it and understanding it may jog some certain nostalgias in you that are particular to you and your experience. Um, but really, it's important to me that to most of this project is a take on an American nostalgia that doesn't even exist anymore. Okay, the real, I don't talk about artist statements or shit like that. But if I were to make an artist statement on threesomes, it's I'm not only recreating and creating this alternate universe that doesn't exist, but I'm sourcing it from an America that doesn't exist and probably never existed. This like nostalgic, idyllic, you know, concept of baseball as the American pastime is bullshit. It never really existed. It did. It's not a real thing. It's something that we've reimagined in movies to make believe that really happened. Okay. Um, the same goes for these like events. This office pool concept to me is so hilariously American that everybody talks about the same sport and the same thing, and they go in and they have the same way of participating in it that is referenced in pop culture. It's referenced in sitcoms. The world thinks that this is how the world works, and yet I've got a collectors group of 375, you know, intimate collectors, plus hundreds outside the grotto that I know exist that we don't really talk yet, right? Um, and it's not their reality. I've got 300 people here that have never been in an office pool. I've got 300 people that have never filled out a bracket. And so this idea that this is like the most American thing, it really isn't. We've been fed that line by advertisers and money people. And so for me in the art project of it, I want to say, oh, you can actually make this where it is an entire community participating in a particular thing that is centered around sports that they don't know anything about. And so it just all it took was the utility aspect to figure out the structures in play that allow you guys to compete with the exact same sports ball results that are the basis of that nonsense office pool world, but to do it in ways that it's accessible to everybody. Doesn't matter. You could not even understand that the Super Bowl exists, and you could have participated in a big way and been engaged for a week and won prizes for little to no investment or effort, right?
Yeah, that was me, dude. I didn't even watch the Super Bowl, but I had a blast doing the Super Bowl stuff with the Grotto, and I was very involved as a collector, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And that right there is the art. That's what I wanted to evoke because American marketing tells us that the world is a certain way, and in some parts of this country, it's believed and seen as a doctrine But really, isn't that's not the reality for most of the country. Most of the world looking into America only knows it through its pop culture and sees this reference to this stuff and has a hard time believing that it's true, but can only take him at its word. And so they're like, well, I guess that's this weird vision of the world that we're supposed to live in. And so for me, to take these things that we're seen as being a part of, even though we really aren't, I wanted to show that, well, okay, we can do it. So I don't know. This is where I get a little cerebral on my art, right? Where I play with these concepts, but it's a fun one.
Yeah, dude, bring it. I love that. Like hearing you talk about that artistically. I mean, for me in my art, not to derail, but I do the same thing, dude. I mix Buddhist culture from all over the world with sci-fi of a future that never existed, right? They call it retrofuturism. And it's the same idea. It's the same concept that we're drawing upon memory that never existed, kind of like Stranger Things. The reason that that show on Netflix nailed the 80s vibe is because it wasn't the 80s vibe. It was a memory that never existed of the 80s vibe. Exactly what you're doing with baseball. Like I forgot before I joined your project, I forgot that I had collected baseball cards as a kid, and I had my Ken Griffey Jr. rookies, and would go to the baseball card shop and trade them around. And that was actually the basis for me to get into Magic the Gathering and getting really nerdy with a lot of other stuff. And you were able to kind of bring that nostalgia back out of me. And, I talk about having a fucked up childhood a lot, but bringing up a good memory of my childhood and really like that made emotional connections with me, with the art and with the community, and that's one of the reasons that I got hooked and I'm still around. Big well, other than
I,
the fact that we're good friends now.
yeah, I love that. I appreciate you telling me that. I didn't realize that I tapped into that. That's isn't that a great thing? I mean, to as an artist to hear that connection's been made. Um, one of the things you mentioned it that we're a pretty international community. We really are, right? It's been a while since I did a poll. I've got my forums and I'll ask questions. And the last time that I asked for people to like say what continent they lived in, right? We were at like 43% out of North America, right? Um, so there's people. There's still people that call me the baseball card guy, which I always laugh at because yeah, I am the baseball card guy, but I'm really not the baseball card guy at all either, right? The, this project is baseball cards and it's not baseball cards at the same time, right? And that's I think the testament to that is the idea that half of our collectors and more than half of the people that own one of my pieces now that we did the Valentine's drop, right? More than half of my collectors are outside of the U.S. And baseball is only played in a handful of countries in the world at any sort of significant level, right? And the bulk of my collectors in the grotto are not baseball people. And for me, the international people, the international collectors, I think. Oh, I would hope. I'm not going to say I think, but my hope is that it's exactly where the concept of the project comes from. The idea that baseball cards are this American novelty that's recognizable. They don't really collect cards of any other sports in most cultures. They have some sticker element that's always been a thing, especially in soccer. The Japanese have some cards, but they're really into like stickers and other dimensions of it. But it's not. It's never been the same thing as Americans have been associated with the baseball cards. And so I remember, I lived in Europe for a number of years. I lived in Mexico for a number of years, and people would always when I tell them that I collected baseball cards, they would recognize it from movies, right? They were like, "Oh, I've seen those in the movies. I understand that concept cinematically." And so my feeling in launching this as a project beyond the conceptual stuff that's been in my head around the league and the teams and all of that, but the idea of it being an art project was that it would the way I'm talking about a nostalgia and that you referenced again that doesn't exist, right? Um, it's more real in the eyes of somebody in Lithuania or Chile or Indonesia as an American experience. They feel that the baseball card and that whole concept is more real than anybody in America. Americans at this point only think of baseball cards in the sense of an investment vehicle. That's the last 20 years. And anybody, you have to go back to people that are now in their 70s to really find any generation that the bulk of them interacted with any sort of baseball card. And so it's not a reality to most living Americans by any stretch, and to most young Americans, it's not at all. It's like there there are probably 25 and 30-year olds who have never even heard of a baseball card. Okay, it's not out there. It's not a part of American life, and yet when I paint them, automatically people from other cultures, it quickly resonated with, oh, I've always I have all these forums where people, I ask them questions, and I have just reams and reams and reams of responses of of people telling me, oh, I'd always heard about baseball cards. I always was interested in why people collected them. I don't understand it, but I've always wanted to know. And I that was where I fucking knew that I sort of hit it with this concept, that the narrative was there, that this is something that doesn't really exist but is perceived to exist.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Toff and Neil keep trying to trade me their cricket cards, but they're not worth shit, and nobody knows what the fuck a cricket card is.
That's great.
No, but for real, you've done an amazing job. So this is about brand building and a lifestyle brand, in my opinion, being an artist in the NFT space. And I've got a lot of baseball friends. I've got like Matt Caesar, Tommy Wilson, Micah Johnson. These guys are professional baseball players that are in the space on Ethereum only, and they're painting pictures and they're doing well economically, but they're not known as the baseball card guy. They're not known as the dude that's creating like a baseball lifestyle brand. They're just ball players that picked up a paintbrush, so there's like a huge difference between, and I love all of them. I hang out with Tommy Wilson all the time. So no shade at all. But what you're building is a brand with community, across chain, tons of utility. There's always something happening every month, right? To keep people engaged. Again, coming back to the brackets that we're doing right now and the defrocking, that's all stuff that's keeping us engaged as collectors on a huge, huge level, which we don't see with other ball players.
Yeah, I appreciate all those words. It's strange because I couldn't do it any other way. I the idea of going, and I think you'll understand this, but the idea of doing a drop every 3 months and then going off and like just working on the drop or working on the periphery and then coming back and doing a drop, it doesn't work for me. To me it really is a lifestyle. Um, it's a it's a daily interaction of sorts. It's a routine interaction if it's not daily. It's just it becomes a part of life. Um, in a healthy way, I believe, and that's where I think the strength of the community makes that possible. I don't think anybody would want to participate in a on a daily basis with an NFT project that was, not bringing something to their soul as well. I mean, we do it. I see people in the space doing it all the time, but I think it's short lived. Whereas, I said this last week. I would imagine that my pallbearers are going to be grotto members. I would imagine going. I've already been to one grotto wedding. I imagine going to others. I imagine, you know, really sharing a life with these people, and um, that's something that I think sets me apart as well. But the idea that I'm capable of creating processes and collections and events and moments that keep us relevantly interacting, right? Um, it's my if I'm capable of it, it's my responsibility to deliver that and deliver it at a I do go back to the fact that it's affordable. Okay, you can play in this space uh, on a lot of the levels, affordably. And if finances are are an issue for you, you can trust that it's holding your value and that you can exit it when you need to. right? So all of those things are just more of the work that I put in, I think, to protect it all, to make it possible that I can say, hey, we're going to do another event. Hey, we're going to do this other thing. And the other aspect, I think Paper Buddha does this a lot too, right? You know, I'm more than, I'm not going to say willing. I'm committed to the idea that if you're a part of this and you're in the community and you're participating, the majority of the pieces that I minted last year, the majority of the pieces that everybody has, I didn't charge for. And they're not strictly airdrops. They were earned and they were, awarded and released to specific utility. But, you know, there's a lot of stuff. I went I went like 10 weeks where I dropped, I don't know, 80 or so different pieces. I didn't charge for a single one of them, right? So, I think there's awful lot of missed opportunity there from some of our peers at building brands and building communities by feeling that you got to charge every single last nickel and dime that you can get out of people. And I feel that you do that same thing where you're never trying to squeeze the last penny out of anybody, and you're rewarding them and engaging them with ways to participate that don't cost a fortune.
Yeah, man, that's a thing. I actually picked that up from you. Like, I definitely innately tried to do that, but watching you and the fact that like every primary drop, bro, is like 1, 2, 3 TES, and then there's always a 10 or 20x return on it. And you have so many mechanics that I just hodl, bro. I'm scared as shit to sell anything. Even in a bear market there where I had to liquidate a couple of JPEGs to pay my team, threesomes was like completely off the list. There was no way I was liquidating shit out of that collection. So it's a testament to what you're building. That you have the right mind. That this is a long-term play. That at least for me, I'm thinking about it as the killer tech here is the smart contract, and my community now are the early adopters. But what happens in 10 years when my hands don't work anymore, but my mouth still works fine? I've got this inventory out there, and we need to build a team and a crew and a community with this like long-term engagement. Man, I picked that up the second I met you and was like, I'm fucking in, super bullish. So yeah, dude, I love all of this stuff. And again, the TPS reports, bro, let's fix that. Let's automate that a little bit because it does suck doing a Google sheet every day. But I'm so bullish on it that I'll do a TPS report every single day for you.
I appreciate that. Well, look, let's rather, we could go on listening to Paper Buddha tell me how great I am for hours. But rather than do that, I want to open it up a little bit and see if anybody's got any specific questions about their brackets or about defrocking, because we're moving into that next week. It was supposed to be this week, but we got a little turned around. It's okay. We're forgiving ourselves quite a bit more with timelines here. A little more cash in the grotto. But does anybody have any questions? You want to just throw up your hands or request to come up? Um, and if not, we can sort of start shutting it down. I've got 64 one of ones to paint today. There he is, Guargo, Door Gang, Grills Gang, Grotto Gang, which we don't call a gang. What's up? You're free and alive. You got something, Seguargo?
Okay, I guess it helps if I unmute. Thanks, dude, for having me up. Everything's been great so far. Hearing everything you had to say, and PB2, just great insight to the whole project and the whole world behind it. My question, I think it's kind of two-part. You said that the Cardinale defrocking, that's going to be happening at the same time as the 3Z reveal, right? That's like the timeline, basically.
Yeah, basically, we're waiting on the 3Z reveal for Cardinale defrocking, because I have announced, sometimes I'll tease a utility announcement ahead of time to sort of set in motion some things, right? But I did announce that if you have a Cardinale trait on your 3Zs, then you can exchange, you can burn that, you can get rid of that trait one for a defrocked cardinale of your choice without burning the 3 cards. And so as a result, we got to wait until you guys know what you've got before we can open up the door to the defrocking, because there will be people who are going to want to defrock a cardinale without having to come up with the 3 base cards, right?
Okay, got it. Yeah, that makes sense. I just wanted getting like confirmation on that. And then I guess the second part of that with the three Z's, I heard a lot, talking about your whole world on Tezos, and obviously that makes sense for the utility and the games and everything that we do to be on Tezos. But obviously, three Z's are on Ethereum, so I was wondering how that will there be future stuff on Ethereum? Will franchises be leaning towards Ethereum, or just wondering if that you've already worked that out, or if that kind of is still subject to change?
Oh no, it's very much worked out. So the best way to look at it, okay, um, all 3Zs are going to be on Ethereum, absolutely. Okay, all of my Nifty drops for the foreseeable future are going to be on Ethereum, right?
Right.
Yesterday maybe there was a little wrench thrown in there by Duncan talking about some cross chain stuff, maybe, but we're going to assume that all of my Nifty drops are going to be on ETH. Okay, the best way to look at it to understand how this all works, because it's all in the same ecosystem. Okay, um, but the best way to look at it is the transactional stuff will predominantly lay on the test side. Okay. Um, there is transactional stuff to the 3Zs that play out on the Tez side as well, right? So there could be a drop on Tez where the utility lies on the ETH side 3Zs, okay, wherein you'll plug in your 3Zs, you'll plug in your wallet, will read what you have, and then allow you access to the transactional side on Tez, okay. But there will also be stuff that is, you know, specific to ETH, but it'll be less transactional. Okay, I don't. We have to. It's not going to be a time where I'll drop a base series, of 15 or 18 cards on ETH. Like that's. I don't think that's ever going to happen unless we get to a gasless ETH. But we'll have a number of pieces on ETH, um, which can be seen as standalone, which could relate to each other and be a part of an overall narrative just fine, but a lot of their utility will find its presence on the Tez side. I've said this a few times in the last few weeks, but my feeling is that by June, um, when you want to buy something from me, you're not really going to feel where you're buying it from. It's just going to have its price. Okay, um, if it's an ETH piece, you'll be buying it on ETH, and if it's a Tez piece, you'll be buying it on Tez. But it'll probably just all come from one centralized portal. If that makes sense. Is
We're
that
hoping, at least, right? I guess that's the
yeah.
goal, that all this stuff will be bridged together.
Yeah, well, and the way that we're creating it, contract wise, okay, allows us to interact with the two sides. It There's just something to be said about me making drops of 100 3Zs rather than one drop of 5,000 or 10,000. Okay, it's very simple to know who has those 100, and don't forget, I have pretty heavy KYC just based on interactions that we have on a daily basis. That KYC not being in the scary governmental side of KYC, right? But as far as the blockchain goes, I know all of my owners, right? And I'm good with that. And so that's a part of where I'm constantly asking this information as we build out profiles, basically, so that we know. So when a wallet has a 3Zs on ETH, okay, I know the corresponding wallet on Tez to interact with. And so it allows me, without getting too deep into the contract side of things, but to build specific elements into specific pieces on specific chains, which can be sort of cited or sourced from the other chain.
We call it business intelligence if you're taking notes.
Right. So does that make sense to Gorgo?
Oh yeah. Definitely. I'm happy to hear that the tech behind this is going to be. I mean, it seems to me kind of novel. I don't think there's many communities out there playing on Tezos and Ethereum. Like obviously, there's plenty of artists to do drops on Ethereum that will do like a one-off on Tez, right? But as far as like having you know everything working together and that's the basis of their collection, I think that's definitely like a novel idea, and I'm excited to see where that goes. And
Well, and
I
it's
in my mind, I'm like looking at like dashboard online if we're staking things, and you see an Ethereum side, you see a Tezos side of things going on, like that. The sky's the limit, really.
yeah, exactly, and that's why to anybody that's new to the project, it seems like we're constantly dropping new elements of the project and doing all this. For the most part, for other than EJG, my dear collector, throwing the monkey wrench that demanded artwork for Sunday. Other than something like that, right? Which I say tongue in cheek, right? But other than little bumps like that, um, this has all been conceived for a very long time. It's been conceived since before April when I quit that job, right? When I knew that I wanted to drop threesomes and launch this whole thing, okay, um, it there were ways that I had to proceed to get where we needed to be, and that's all this is. The reason that we're coming up on 9 months in, and actually we're a little over 9 months in now before we're getting to the franchise era, okay, is because we needed to have elements of this in play and be a part of our daily lives and have an understanding from the collector community of how this would all work before I could even start to explain to you that you were going to own these teams and these teams were going to operate independently from me and my creative mind, right? And so the franchise was always going to happen, but we just had to get there. And it's the same thing on the cross chain stuff. I was talking with people before my I my name was even threesomes, right? About how this was going to play out, and so what seems novel, and it is. And look, we're not in the grotto, we're in the LFGP, right? So there's people listening that aren't used to me being cocky and being sort of an asshole and whatever I may be, but I'm pretty fucking good at what I do, and I'm pretty good at developing this space, and I am sort of novel in a lot of things, right? um, and I don't want to come off you know un, uncivilized right now when I say, like, yeah, I'm kind of inventing approaches to cross chain stuff, and I'm not a goddamn platform builder, and I'm not a dev, but we can employ devs that can make the things happen the way they're supposed to happen that allow my concepts to come around. So that's where we're
Yeah,
at.
that's awesome. And just one last comment. I don't want to feel like I'm taking this over, but the it just occurred to me that the process of the franchises and having the ownership and the team and actually having salaries for those people. It's reminding me of all these gaming NFTs that are coming out, right? And all this play to earn stuff, and people are building guilds, right? And so you have a team that's leasing out their characters to be played, where essentially, right, you're the guild owner is like getting paid and paying people to play on his team. It feels essentially like the first model of that really happening, because I don't think there's much of that. I think there's a lot of building going on towards these guilds and play to earn games, but it's more of like an on-chain version of that same idea.
Yeah, well, and I appreciate that, seeing that, and it's certainly there. The one thing that I will stand up and say, in absolute, you know, counterpoint to that is, if you look at all of those, to lay them out with a lot of the actual gameplay and interaction involved in it, right? Involves super teams, corporations basically, and a lot of them are backed by established, gaming, developers and just structured software businesses and what have you, right? Um, they're being run very much as a business that if we know well enough at this point that there's a bottom line that's being fed. And so if you look at a lot of the play to the play to earn and the the whatever yield farms and staking mechanics that are out there, the moment you see somebody dropping a staking ecosystem, you know that they're finally going to get paid, right? Um, and I'll just say that my play to earn and the idea of the salary and the idea of that, it's the people that are owning my franchises that are going to get paid, right? It's really like it's it's strange to say out loud in a group because it comes off as probably somewhat ingenuine and dubious, right? But I make plenty of fucking money. I'm pretty goddamn comfortable, and for me, it's very important that those who believe in the project are involved in it get to make similar, if not better, money. It's always been my case. That's why my my collectors make a lot more money at this than I do, and that's how it should be. And so this is most of those are corporate structures that are really meant to squeeze pennies out, and mine is meant to put pennies in. So that's all I'll say to that.
It's awesome. Thanks again, dude.
No, appreciate you. Thank you for all your support and Door Gang support, and I really appreciate it. Anybody else got a question, either on franchises or defrocking or the March Madness?
What's up with LA, man? You going to LA? I keep hearing about all these people going to LA, and I feel FOMO.
Well, I'll let you feel less roped into that because I actually decided over the weekend that I'm not going to LA and I'm not going to Miami. I'm going to take those 10 days, which make a lot of sense for me to go. The LA thing, I was really courted by the right approach and was going to be the right thing for me. Um, and then, of course, I want to go to Miami and see you and see some other people who want to go hang and do a real grotto because we're a couple months removed from doing a real grotto. But if I did that, if I spent those 10 days, which is pretty much a 10-day party, even when I'm working as hard as I work at those things, it put me 10 days further behind on stuff. And so I've decided I'm actually not going anywhere. I'm going to focus on, the lead up to franchise era is a major one. And I need to be entirely caught up and entirely positioned to do that. And once I do that, there's a really great schedule and structure around it all. And plus, let's be honest, by going into franchise era, the franchises are in control and responsible for a lot of the things that I do on a daily basis. As far as you know, figuring out who hasn't filled in their forms and getting people together and making sure that people are doing the right thing at the right time and telling new people about it. And a lot of the things that are my responsibility will now be the responsibility of the owners of these teams and their organizations. And so it'll take some of that off my plate, which will allow for a much less forgiving schedule like you guys have granted me lately. We can deliver a little more consistently because I'll be wearing fewer hats. And so that's a big part of getting ready. And I just felt that if I run off to LA and Miami for 10 days, that it's just going to take away from that, and we're going to be even that much slower to do that. So yeah, I respectfully remove my name from the VIP lists, unfortunately.
That's the right move, man. That's exactly the kind of wisdom that we got around the temple, and I don't think we're gonna do either. Miami or LA, and really focus on doing June in New York big and doing it right and putting our
Right?
resources into that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So with I really wanted to do Vegas if it had happened. Of course, it was a big rug pull, but if it had been real and what I had planned, it was going to be awesome. Um, but now, fuck it. Now I save the Vegas money, I save the LA money, I save the Miami money. I'm just going fucking hard for New York. Like it's going to be opulent. everybody knows that we don't fuck around in real life grottos to begin with, but it's going to be opulent. That's all I gotta say. So
Yeah, for any non-grotto members that are in the audience, we fucking do it up in real life, just like the temple does. The grotto's huge in real life. So if you're about that real life utility, this is the right project.
yeah, that's it couldn't coming from somebody whose entire community is centered around real life utility. I appreciate that, but we don't fuck around, and we it's a big part of it. A big part of why we do all of this is so that we can have enough in the coffers that we can go fucking tear it up every month somewhere, right? That's the idea. So yeah, it unfortunately we right now I and look, let's not pretend COVID fucked me up. I mean, I lost a lot of productivity. I lost a lot of my schedule and my pace to it. And so, you know, maybe things would be different if I didn't have such a reduced output for 6 7 weeks. Um, and so but that's what it is. And so I've got to be a big guy and understand that time for play is not right now. Sucks.
Yeah, don't feel like alone in that, right? Coming back from Denver, both Laser Lou and I both got it, the vid, and we were down and like saps a good week of production and then another week of trying to get into the right mental space of getting back into the swing of things. So it's rough out there.
Yeah, no, it is. It truly is. But it's like I'm susceptible to some FOMO, and I look out there and fucking see things going on at South by Southwest, and see my friends out there having shows and having parties, and I see now that Tim Kang is going to be at that thing in Vegas next week, and or is it this weekend even? There's things that I want to be doing, but I just can't. I just can't do it all. I'll be able to do it all if I can get everything back on track. But I'm a little behind on some things. I don't know if you guys have heard. but yeah. So now I'm not going to be making those trips. But uh, our time will come, and New York is going to be insane. If you guys saw the properties that have got lined up, like Grotto Gramercy was great. It was a great jumping off point for us. The very first time we did it in real life, Grotto, I rented a townhouse in Gramercy. We had the whole place to ourselves, and it was a nice setup. But that we've come a long way since then, kids. We've come a long way. So I just wish that it were easier to have. I'm going to end up with multiple properties, is what I'm doing for New York, because you just can't deliver what we need at this point is we need 20 bedroom palatial expanses, and that's just hard without just getting a hotel. But they
That's
all
about that's about where we're at too, man. Like in Denver, I had to get two Airbnbs because we're already
yeah,
growing to that point. So yeah, now you're looking at complexes, or I guess the next thing is both of our communities teaming up and blocking out parts of a hotel.
right, yeah, and that's probably what we're going to be looking at for the fall and the winter, right? We're going to really have to start planning it that way, which is going to be sort of interesting when you think about it. It's like we certainly are taking different pages, and yet I don't know. There's also something to be said about the house aspect. You know, uh, the nice thing is
Yeah,
a lot of these places allow for that. Like in Boston, the weather was shitty, and that was Boston. I even told people stay away, right? But there was a spot that if we did Boston in the summer, that would have been great with like one of the oldest estates in New England, like that sort of a thing. I mean, there are places. It's just in Manhattan, it's a little complicated, right?
yeah, Manhattan's rough. Vegas is rough. LA actually has pretty good villas and stuff that's available. So that's another thing is we have to be real selective about the cities we go to as we grow our communities to keep that exclusive feel. We don't want to go take over the Red Roof Inn and start trapping and shit.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
we still
Exactly.
want to have the luxury life, right?
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you, and that's where we're going with this. The luxury life really does matter, and you know, eh, like I said, everything that I'm spending on doing this is coming from the project. It's where this is all of my income now. It's how we do all of this, and I just want to share it. And I'll say this about PB: he understands that there are times where it's nice to treat yourself, and I feel that as a community we can treat ourselves to some nice setups. we do this. Anybody else got any questions? And if not, we'll sort of wrap it up here. It was a good one. Really glad that PB was available. I really appreciate that. I like having the dialogue. You guys who aren't in the grotto know. I mean, I do monologue to start, but a lot of an LFG is based on either people just unmuting and chiming in, or a lot in the feed. And that's the thing about Spaces. There's no feed to feed off of. For everybody to see. I could riff on stuff that's just going on in the grotto as they're talking about it, but it's sort of unfair to some of you that can't see it. So, but we'll just call it. I think it was a great one. Thanks to Dbot and Seguargo and PB for coming up, of course. Thanks for everybody for tuning in. If you've got some of these bracket seeds, feel free to move them around or dig in and see. Oh, wait. Here we go. Lucha Abracadabra. Come on up.
Yo, I just want to throw a last second shout out to Cal State Fullerton. Gonna kick ass in March Madness. Peace.
Yes. Cal State Fullerton. The Titans. The alma mater of Kevin Costner. Good luck to you, Kevin Costner. Yeah, so all of you are going to be cheering on teams that you never thought you'd cheer on.
The postman will deliver. It's going to be Water World at all your homes from Tears. And I've got the swing vote.
Keep going. Don't stop.
That says that I'm going to be the prince of thieving all your inserts. Peace.
At the end of this, you're going to hoist the tin cup of
yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Luch. Always a pleasure. Love you. I love it. And so this is the thing. Luch does this shit to me day in, day out, and just pops in with little things to make me break in the grotto. And so those of you that aren't in the grotto miss out on that sort of stuff. I'm sure that Spaces will evolve and make for things a little more handy than that. But anyway, guys, let's call it. We'll wrap this up, and I'll see everybody tomorrow at 4:30 for LFG in the grotto. And honestly, we can talk about it, but there's a lot of basketball to be watched, starting early in the morning. So cheer on those teams and get to know your obnoxious 18 and 19-year-old Americans and some Europeans who have decided that their shit doesn't stink, right? God, what an obnoxious age of young men for us to celebrate their achievements. It's so funny. What a bunch of little cocksuckers 18 and 19-year-old athletes are. And we're going to cry when they do